What is up, my fellow Cobra Kai, Eagle Fang, and Miyagi-Do friends or frenemies, whatever you prefer. In this video, I wanted to cover something that I've gone in detail on before, and I've said it many times in my predictions for Season 4, and where I think the All Valley could really not just stake a claim for the new sort of terrain that the show will go on in terms of Season 5 and 6 and beyond, or, you know, however long the show continues on past that point. But I wanted to delve into a point a bit more, and that is why Robbie will win. And this has also got a little bit of bias to it, just because I feel like Robbie is deserving of this win, in my opinion. There's so much that's been thrown his way across the board, across the seasons, that I've covered in a multitude of videos across the channel. If you're a Robbie video, make sure you go and check those out. I've got them all the way back till October time, when I was predicting Robbie's arc for Season 3. But the reason I feel like Robbie is going to win this time, not just for... if we just remove the obvious answer out the window, is that Cobra Kai needs to win in order for Season 5 and 6 to have a villain. Now, obviously, you could introduce a third faction, right? You could introduce a third player, where Cobra Kai, Miyagi-Do, and Eagle Fang come together to fight a bigger threat. But I feel like if you're going to do that, that's something you do after this. You don't do it during this. You do that like Season 5 or 6 as like a final confrontation kind of thing. But I think it's pretty much unanimous. It's in an agreement between Daniel and Johnny that Cobra Kai has to go. So that is the end game of the show. Ultimately, at least for me, that Cobra Kai, by the end of it, and on that kind of point, I feel like, you know, that is the main reason why Cobra Kai is destined to win this tournament. Just because, you know, for the longevity of the show's sake, you do need to keep that intact. And we didn't hear what Kreese's stipulation was if Daniel and Johnny lose. So he's like, you know, if we lose, I go. But what if Daniel and Johnny lose? What's the stipulation there? So I feel like that's going to be revealed like around mid-season of Season 4 of what happens if you lose, Daniel? What happens if you lose, Johnny? And another reason why Cobra Kai is destined to win is, if you think about redemption, this is the redemption of Kreese, Silver, and potentially Mike Barnes for the loss 30 years ago that they suffered. This is, you know, it sounds petty when you think about it, but, you know, given the way the show is, you know, come on, just let it slide. I feel like it's just natural for them to come back and claim a victory. And how bittersweet would it be if they win, Robbie wins the tournament, he goes through every opponent, but he actually uses Miyagi-Do to win. Now, the reason I say Miyagi-Do specifically is I could see him using Cobra Kai just to go through every single enemy he faces, you know, one by one by one by one by one by one by one. However, throughout this show, it feels like Miyagi-Do has kind of taken a, how do I say it, a sort of backseat to the Cobra Kai method. The Cobra Kai method has been somewhat elevated in terms of strike first and, you know, strike hard and no mercy and all that. And it ties all the way back to the All Valley in Season 1, when Robbie's using Miyagi-Do and he starts mounting a comeback, but the ruthlessness of Cobra Kai just completely takes over. With Miguel just, you know, injuring his shoulder. Same with Hawk before that. So I feel like, how interesting would it be if Robbie wins, but the final kick, what if it's, you know, I mean, hell, who knows, maybe Miguel does the two-legged kick that Robbie did, and maybe Robbie does the crane kick, you know, who knows, just to, you know, wind the other opposition up kind of thing, steal the other person's move. But I just feel like Miyagi-Do has kind of taken a back seat in terms of that, up until CHOZEN was brought back. Up until that point, CHOZEN gave Miyagi-Do bite in it, like he gave them teeth in their bite, you know, really sharp teeth. He gave them some grit, and as he said, defense takes on many forms. And for me, you know, it's like when an enemy insists on war, you know, and then you use the Miyagi-Do pressure points. It's just given a whole new perspective to look at the Miyagi-Do way of fighting. And I would absolutely love it if Robbie wins via Miyagi-Do. As I've said from day one, I know he's in Cobra Kai, where his father was, you know, he's sort of continuing that legacy. and he'll probably be with them up until about season 5-ish. But I do feel like the Miyagi-Do teachings, because they got to Robbie first, because Daniel got to Robbie first, it's still going to have an effect on him. And I still feel like throughout season 4, we're going to see that sort of unfold. Maybe Robbie still cares about his fellow students. Maybe Robbie has sympathy for other people. And the true, Miyagi-Do Robbie will still be within him. But in regards to Daniel or Johnny or Miguel or Sam, you'll see the Cobra Kai Robbie come out. And it will be about him trying to find his balance. He'll sort of have the Hawk journey this season, a bit like Hawk did in season 3. And it's going to be interesting to see him rebel against Kreese and Silver. I think he'll rebel against them more, because Hawk had a desire to prove he was the number one. He had a constant desire to say, hey Kreese, look at me, I'm your top dog. And he was going to do whatever Kreese wanted. Robbie, however, has naturally just a bit more of a sharp tongue and resistance. He will openly just, say whatever's on his mind. And he could either potentially get worse, or he could potentially be the way of reforming Cobra Kai. But with the way Kreese got in his head, and then you mentioned Silver there and Barnes, it's only, he could get worse. But I do feel like in regards to the tournament, I feel like Robbie is due for a win. I don't mind if Miguel wins. I've said this from day one. Most theories that can be made up between now and, season 4, it's anyone's guess. It's fair game. Anything's possible. I could be right, I could be wrong, you could be right, you could be wrong, we could all be wrong. It's just nothing more than harmless speculation. But just purely from a subjective standpoint, I really want Robbie to win this one. After his loss in the All Valley in Season 1, I just feel like it's just a natural progression for him. And the way the show is designed is, and I said this before, if these seasons were like the movies, then Robbie would have redeemed by the end of Season 3, and he would have gone back to Daniel and Johnny. But because it's a TV show, and the storytelling's a bit more stretched out, and you can spread it across more seasons, Robbie's arc, as I've said before, is just an extended Daniel's arc. It's just literally Daniel joining Cobra Kai, but extended. It's just longer. It's more stretched out. It's more enriched. It's more, detailed. There's nuances that are created across a bigger space of time. And he's not just joined them for the sake of joining them. He's joined them because it's been leading up to that point. It's always been leading up to that point. So I would love it if Robbie wins, and I think it will really be a test to his character. If Robbie remembers what Hawk and Miguel did to him in the first All Valley, where, purposefully attacking his injury, trying to provoke him, using sort of I say underhanded tactics, it's still legal within the ramifications of what they're allowed to do, but you know what I mean, sort of going for his injury, low blows, that kind of stuff. I feel like Robbie may flip the script and actually use Miyagi-Do against them. He may use that against them. Think about Miguel and Hawk. They are two of Cobra Kai's most prominent fighters. And they have been in the Cobra Kai teaching since Season 1, and they've got Johnny's sort of Cobra Kai still within them. And I want to give a big shout out to Hawk, because he's trained under Johnny, he's trained under Kreese, and now he's going to get Daniel. Hawk could be the hidden gem of this tournament. I'm just throwing that out there. Hawk has all 3 senseis under his belt, I'm just throwing that out there. Obviously, he didn't have Kreese for as long as he had Johnny, but he'll have had Kreese for about the same time he probably will have Daniel in Season 4 and maybe beyond. But Johnny still has that Cobra Kai, edge within Miguel and Hawk. So what if Robbie thinks, right, brute force and striking first isn't going to work. I'm going to let Miguel and I'm going to let Hawk come to me, and I'm going to use it against them. I'm going to use their own thing against them. You're using this was the stuff that was taught to me. I was taught by Daniel this. This is my stuff, and I'm going to use it against you. And I think that will actually pave way for his redemption. No doubt, in my mind, redemption is on the cards for him. It's just a case of when. When do you do it? And I feel like if you're going to redeem Hawk in Season 3, you need Robbie to do it probably in Season 5. Just to really sort of flesh out his evil bad boy arc throughout Season 4. Just to let him get this Vader out of him. And you know that line that Dimitri says to Hawk where he says, what is this, your Red Hulk phase? What if Dimitri just says, what are you, like Darth Vader or something now? It would be a nice little sort of, wink wink, we see you, kind of thing. And I've said it before. Robbie helped Dimitri and stood up for Dimitri when, Cobra Kai at the time was ganging up on him, chasing him through the mall, putting a beat down on him. I feel like Robbie eliminating Dimitri will be the catalyst. It will be the seed for his redemption. Dimitri will be like, huh, you remember when you saved my ass in the mall? Look at you now. And, you know, to be fair to Robbie, it's not like anyone from Miyagi-Do went and visited him while he was in juvie. That's another reason. Despite them having like 10 people, not one of them checked in on him. But I feel like that is another part that could pave way for the redemption in that sense. But just to stay on the topic of him winning, I just feel like it would serve Robbie's character more than Miguel. I feel like Miguel's character, if he wins again, right, his whole desire is, I need to prove it again. What if he just makes it to the finals and it's just a clean loss? Fair and square, clean loss, and that's it, you know? And with Miguel getting kicked over the staircase in Season 2, Miguel, again, this is how great this show is. Miguel has the arc of the champion who falls to rise again. A bit like if you've ever seen Rocky, if you've ever seen Creed. It's that exact formula. But then you also have Robbie, where we are in the age of the grey character. And I use Creed 2 as an example because Drago in that film, right, and I love that film, it's perfect. What it does is it takes Apollo's death from the original Rocky movies. It takes that death and it flips it into it basically puts the characters on opposite ends of the spectrum. So it takes the good guys and puts them in the bad guys' position. It takes the bad guys and puts them in the good guys' position. And Drago makes the choice to throw the towel in to save his son from getting a complete beatdown, the same way Rocky should have done for Apollo all those years ago. Pride aside, if he'd have done it, Apollo would have still been alive. And obviously, it's different because that's Creed and Rocky, but I'm using it as an example of the Robbie sees that this is going to be a constant pattern that keeps going. Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai, it's going to be a constant thing. Robbie is the one to break that cycle. And he'll go, you know what? I'm going to redefine Cobra Kai. We're going to win cleanly. We're going to win cleanly. And this could potentially tie into, you know, Kreese trying to strangle him outside in the parking lot for doing it. Or just Kreese saying, you know, you won, but you're not using the techniques I taught you. Are you sure you're still on board with Cobra Kai? And then potentially just end Season 4 with that kind of seed of, you know, hey, he's not fully on board, he's still got that Miyagi-Do within him. I'm just saying. But I use the Creed example because we are in the age of taking a history parallel and flipping it and reversing it. And I do feel like it just makes sense for Robbie to win this one. Now, I know people have said to me, oh, there'll be another one. I don't think there should be. I think this should be the final one, and then after this, you know, you do, like, just street fights, pretty much how the other Karate Kid movies do it. Because otherwise, what you run into is you regurgitate the same thing. Now, if they do it, I don't mind, because they've got a 6-season plan, they've got a roadmap, they know where they're going, so they have my full confidence. However, I do feel like, in context of the show and what it's going for, I feel like we are going to start to break away from the tournaments, and who knows, maybe they could have an international tournament for over 18-year-olds. You know, 18 and over. You know, you can fight in tournaments nationally or whatever. I mean, hell, could you imagine Daniel and Johnny going to a national tournament with Hawk, Miguel, Robbie, Sam, potentially Aisha, Dimitri, as like their main students? They would absolutely decimate everyone. But then again, you know, this is just a theory, it's just harmless speculation. Guys and girls, leave your comments down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I know many of you guys in live streams have been asking me about this, and you kind of have a similar thought process to me, that Robbie is destined to win the All Valley. But what I'm doing here is I'm not just saying that he's going to win because Cobra Kai needs to stick around for another season or two. I'm talking a little bit about it more from Robbie's perspective, why it would serve Robbie's character for him to win. And I do feel like Season 3 had the third act redemption, where the lessons that you've learned in the previous 3 installments, so Season 1, Act 1, Season 2, Act 2, Season 3, Act 3. Now, I know this isn't a trilogy, but it still kind of follows that formula, where Season 3, You have the redemption. You have Daniel and Johnny finally on the same page. Hawk and Miguel were back together. Everything's bliss. And again, as I said, if it was the movies, Robbie would have been there as well. But because it's the show, they need, they need a villain. So Robbie and Tori are on the other side with, Mr. Kyler over there. And I do feel like Season 4, they could win. But then, you see, the problem that creates is, do you make them win again in Season 5 and then have Daniel and Johnny just win at the end? That's what that creates. Unless, again, we just go with the safe route. Miguel wins. And then Season 5 and 6 are about, more different kind of confrontation, if you know what I mean. So, Miguel could become a 2-time champ. But I feel like, leave that to Daniel. Let Daniel be the 2-time champ. Let Robbie win this one. And it would just serve his story, I feel it would just serve his story. And Robbie's in a position where you could go anywhere with him. You could do so much with his character. You could make him an even more of a bad boy. You could even make him a good guy, badass good guy. You could make him an evil piece of shit, You could do whatever you wanted to do with Robbie's character. With Hawk and Miguel, I kind of feel like they're now restricted to Daniel and Johnny. They'll still have their great story arcs, but I feel like Robbie's that maverick character that could go in any direction. Same as Tori, them two could go in any direction. I know people have asked me, strangely, do I think Kyler will join Miyagi-Do or Eagle Fang? No, absolutely not. I think Kyler is in Cobra Kai probably till the end. I love that he's in Cobra Kai. But anyway, guys and girls, leave your comments down below. I'm interested to hear what you all have to say. And yeah, who are your bets on to win the All Valley? And, don't know what to end the video with. Normally I end it with a quippy line. I think I'll do the one that one of you guys suggested. In the King's English, it's good old-fashioned bedwetting.